Hello and welcome to feedbackthemagazine.com. I'm here with the CEO of Moovn, Godwin Gabriel. Moovn, which was founded in 2015, is a ride-sharing company that is based out of Seattle, Washington. My first question, Godwin, what is the main premise and concept for establishing Moovn?
Well, I felt that the market was in need of a differentiator. As you know, that there's only two rideshare companies in the entire United States that are dominant and dominating this space. And we also felt like in consumer, in terms of just addressing some consumer pain points like surge pricing and driver-related constraints in terms of complaints. We felt that there was a need to come in as a market differentiator and provide this service. So, hence, started the journey of creating Moovn, which is, of course, in itself has been a long and arduous journey. But we're thankful that we're here and that we're mentioned in the same sentence as these two other rideshares, Uber and Lyft, and also great gaining traction around the world.
Okay, my next question is how many people are currently employed by Moovn?
We have over 36 employees, and for the most of them spanning out into Africa, where we're also very dominant through our partnership with Vodacom. And we're planning to grow substantially this year as we're starting to get into more and more cities across the United States.
Okay. Now, out of curiosity, how many riders does Moovn average daily?
Right about now, we have anywhere in our markets. Right about now, we average around 50,000 or more riders, and that is just gaining more and more as more people are becoming more and more aware of our platform.
Okay. Now, can you tell my audience what cities is Moovn currently operating in?
We just recently launched Seattle as the third rideshare option. Ride-sharing services in Seattle, of course, being also significant because this is our base. This is where I live. This is where everything got started. So we've been being promoted as the third rideshare option in Seattle. It's met with a lot of enthusiasm. Consumers are really happy, and we're planning to roll out. In addition to other cities, New York, rideshare services. Right about now, we currently operate on a B2B space for most parts of the other cities in the United States, but we're rolling out rideshare services in Atlanta, LA, New York, Boston, Chicago, San Francisco. There's a lot of cities on the roadmap right about now, just to name. But right about now, we're on track to launch at least 10 cities, and that also includes some international locations as well.
Okay. Now, what separates your company from other ride sharing companies? Because I did some research, and you guys, when it comes to compensating your drivers, you guys let your drivers keep 85% of fares, while Uber lets their drivers keep 75, and Lyft is last on the list with their drivers keeping 25% of the fares.
Yeah, so we are very much a driver-focused, driver-friendly platform more than the other guys. We strive on making sure we promote the driver's welfare. That is first and foremost, because, I mean, if you think about it, it's like this model, regardless of who we are, whether it's Uber, Lyft, or Moovn, it would not exist if it wasn't for the operator. So it makes no sense when drivers are complaining about saying, about their welfare and saying that, they're not really making a living at all. We have made a significant step forward to make sure that we promote the driver's welfare by allowing them to keep 85% of the fare plus tip. But in addition to that, we're creating all sorts of incentives for the drivers to feel like they also have a sense of ownership in our platform, in the context of allowing driver ambassador programs, incentives that allow them to earn more, keep more. And we're also going further by going up to 90 days in certain cities, 90 days commission free, in order to allow the driver to really for a whole entire 90 days commission free, keeping 100% of the fare. Other differentiators on the consumer side, as I mentioned earlier, there's no surge pricing on our platform. And then I know that it's been a major consumer pain point. It's like, 1 minute you get a $10 fare, next minute you pay $100 or more on the same distance or same ride. So we have addressed that. We have no surge pricing on our platform, ability to pay cash in certain markets. If you go to other African cities that we operate in, we also extend our products by offering tuk-tuks and little motorcycle taxis in addition
Okay. Now, my next question is, what has been the response or the reception from your customers since the launch of Moovn?
It's been very, very generous, actually, and very overwhelmingly positive. We appreciate our supporters and around the world, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. We feel like the little guy in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's been being rooted for, like the underdog, and we feel like there's a great sense of acceptance, and because we're coming in and addressing a lot of consumer issues, and I think that it's almost like the industry is almost borderline monopolized, and coming in as a third player, we feel like we have a unique advantage in so many ways to really help out the consumer end and as well as the driver end.
Now, a few more questions. How important was it for you to establish a black-owned ride-sharing company?
Well, you know what? I always say that this has been a unique opportunity. When I started moving, I just saw I first looked outward. I'm originally from Tanzania, East Africa, but I grew up here as an American as well, as an African and American. I also saw an opportunity to address some mobility challenges on the continent of Africa, and as well as in the inner city America as well. There's a lot of things that tie my vision to this as an African American and as an African. And one side, on as an African American, I feel like we have a unique opportunity to inspire inner city youth in terms of saying, hey, you can also be a technologist, and you can also go out there and challenge big companies in that regard as well. So we feel like we're an inspirational brand in so many ways, and really inspiring the next generation of youth technologists in America, and men or women of color. But more so in Africa and the continent of Africa, we're creating employment opportunities, spurring economic growth through our operations out there. We're and easing transportation-related constraints of moving products from the marketplace to consumers, the way you and I use things out here or order things here in the United States. So I feel like a sense of duty in a way is that we're doing business for good, both here in America and as well as in the continent of Africa.
Okay. My next question is, I think I sort of asked this before, but do you feel like you're a trailblazer for Black people or African Americans, since you're the first one to start a ride sharing service or company?
You know what? I don't consider myself necessarily a trailblazer. I just consider myself just a guy who's just saw an opportunity and I feel an opportunity to make a change, and I jumped at it, and I dared, and we dared, and we made it happen. I feel like if anything, we hope that we are inspirational. We continue to be inspirational to a lot of people who want to be in this space, whoever want to come into this space and feel like, hey, I can change, I can do this, and I can do it better. And we absolutely embrace that, because I know that there's a lot more to be done, and anybody can do it. And and I think that it's just more so that we hope that we're inspirational. We hope that we're breaking the barriers, if anything. And we know that there's going to be even bigger and better people and smarter people behind us who are going to come in and do even better than us.
Okay. Now, recently, Moovn became a licensed and certified ride-sharing service in the city of Seattle. Tell my audience, what does that mean for your company? Does that mean more revenue earning possibilities?
Yes, absolutely. Being a third rideshare option, it's a significant milestone to the growth of the company. That means that drivers operating on the Uber and Lyft platform can now officially also drive on the Moovn platform as well. This is significant because, we're talking about having thousands of drivers applying almost daily. This is a unique opportunity for us, of course, in revenue generation and the growth of the company as a whole. And this is just the first city, as I said, and 9 others are still in the pipeline to be launched this year, and some of them before summer. So I think that is a great opportunity as we look outward and across, expanding our rideshare services across the United States.
Okay. Now, with companies like Moovn, Uber, and Lyft coming along, do you think the traditional model of taxis will be a thing in the past?
I think there's a room for taxis on our platform. We have extended we've extended the branch out out to taxi cab companies who are also facing, challenges in terms of getting customers into their vehicles. We are a very friendly platform. We're a very driver-centric platform, and we welcome taxi partners to join our what we call movement. We don't see any reason why we cannot have a category called taxi on our platform. It's just because this allows other users who prefer actually taxis to also use an app-based service as well. So we see it as a unique opportunity as well.
Now, my next question is, how did you come up with the unique name of Moovn?
That is very interesting. I actually soul searched for quite some time. I was thinking that it was just going to be easy. I considered crazy names like Roland, all these kind of things, but they're all taken. And it wasn't until one day I was just really kind of I was cleaning my son's room actually, and I tell this story, and I had my light bulb moment. And Moovn at that point became the name, and found that it was available, and I started branding around Moovn, and it's since then stuck. But it was just that moment.
Okay, a couple more questions. Like you said earlier and during the interview, you said Moovn doesn't believe in price gouging its customers. Was that because you wanted to distinguish yourself from other companies?
Absolutely. And not only that, but I also believe that, as I said again earlier, is that the trip that costs you $10 on a normal basis or any other time should not cost you $100. That's just because there's a high peak in demand. And I know that most of these companies are following kind of sort of like the airline model. It's like, well, you might get a ticket for less if you book it within a prescribed time frame, versus if it's on high demand, you can pay thousands of dollars for the same ticket. But I feel like transportation should be made easy. Transportation is a need, is not a want. So to be gouging customers and say, well, you cannot go from point A to point B without paying me $100, which a fare would have cost $10, is highway robbery, if I were to say. Transportation is a need, it's not a want. People need to get from point A to point B.
So if a family of four that goes to a Mariners game, their ride from Moovn will cost the same amount as for the last game of the season?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in February 2017, I know that you probably don't remember this, but New York cab drivers went on a temporary strike to protest Donald Trump's Muslim ban.
Right.
Did you guys see a spike in service as a result of that, because Uber and Lyft kept their drivers on the road?
Yes, we did see a spike in as far as in service in need, as far as demand for our service. We started, as users, I think it was around the time that people were saying delete Uber or whatever the case is. We became, identified. We were identified as an option, and across the city yes, we were met with overwhelming amount of demand as a result, and some of the cities that we were not even readily in yet, and we're still not in yet. But also it gave us an ammo for us to grow and to grow fast in order to meet some of this demand, which we're anticipating to address very soon here. The Muslim ban was in itself, as I said again, and I wrote a very passionate letter about it as a chief executive of the company, is that we had to take a really critical viewpoint on this whole thing of an immigration. I'm an immigrant. Drivers who support this platform, right, are largely immigrants, 90+% of them. I said, these are people who are taking you from point A to point B to discriminate. These are people who are earning a living, supporting their families, paying into the taxes into the American economy, and et cetera, et cetera. So to institute bans, it really potentially hurts innovations and companies like ours, and as well as it hurts the families. And I felt the need to speak up.
Now, my next question is, what challenges do you guys face in a business that's dominated by individuals that have wealth and power?
Well, right about now is just mostly just competing. We feel very confident that we are squarely able to compete. We don't look at ourselves any less, per se. We're very ambitious, we're very driven, and we're not going anywhere. So we've made that determination, and right about it. The challenges in operating in this space are always going to be there, but we meet them with strength and agility. So it's not necessarily been a bad of a ride.
Now I have two more questions for you. How were you able to, personally, how were you able to bounce back from the recession in 2008, in which your luxury car business was a casualty?
Yeah, so I went back to work, and I put in a lot of work in corporate America, and then and came back to this love, and I knew that I was always born an entrepreneur. I felt like it, and it wasn't until when I started moving that I realized this is really where my true passion lies. And I spent the last of my 401k to build this enterprise from scratch, and including teaching myself technology, which has been really helpful in lots of ways, because then even as a chief executive, sometimes I roll up my sleeves and get to work and help out teams get things done. So it's been a very amazing and learning journey and learning experience, and as well as it has its pains and joys, but I've really relatively enjoyed it.
Now, lastly, if the recession of 2008 doesn't happen, do you think Moovn would exist today?
Yes, it would, because when I had my car service business back then, I sold just before the recession hit, actually. So I was successful exiting just right before the effects of the recession occurred. But at the same time, I've always felt like at that time we had already started doing a lot more of what we're doing right now. And one of the things that I remember is that we're already outsourcing extra rides, volumes of rides to independent contractors without even having necessarily just through a web-based platform. We did not have an app at that time and all that stuff. And I've always been forward-thinking, like, what if we had an automated process of dispatching these rides? And it was just back then. So I've always had that itch. I've always had that idea, and until some of these players, came up with this concept, and I've always felt like, okay, why not me? And I think that if, to answer your question, if this, the recession had happened, we would still be moving today. Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Now, Godwin, can you tell my listeners where they can where they can find you at on social media if they want to request for a ride? Where could they go to?
Absolutely, they can follow me at Moovn Man, MOOVNMAN, and also follow our at Moovn MOOVN Instagram, social media, and across social media. In terms of requesting a ride, download the app, in the App Store, Google Play, Moovn app, MOOVN, and let's get moving.
Okay, I want to thank you very much, Godwin, for taking time out to speak with feedbackthemagazine.com.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you reaching out to us, and thank you, and we'll definitely be subscribing to your channel.
Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. And for Godwin Gabriel, I'm Sonny Pinkney. This is feedbackthemagazine.com.